Well, welcome back. Now, the CBS Boston affiliate, WBZ, tells us that yesterday, Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick unveiled a new plan to spend $40 million. And here's how he justifies it. According to climate change projections, he tells them that they could possibly have an increase in the sea level of 1 to 6 feet. Now, what's the justification for that? Well, there isn't any justification. The climate change is not happening. We're not seeing climate warming for 17 years in spite of increases in CO2 at a record increase. Now, there's an MIT professor who pushes back on that in this article. They say MIT professor is urging climate change activists to slow down. And this is what Richard Linson of MIT says. He said, global warming, climate change, all these things are just a dream come true for politicians. The opportunities for taxation, for policies, for control, for crony capitalism are just immense, and you can see their eyes bulge. He nailed it exactly. This is a guy who is a scientist following the climate issue, and he knows that this is all politics. And we've seen that in the UK, just this last weekend, the British government was busted for trying to lie to the public and use the BBC to promote their propaganda. Here's that report.
UK blogger Tony Newberry stumbled across a $110,000 funding grant for a seminar that the UK government hoped would see its line on climate change promoted in BBC reporting. When he asked for more information under a Freedom of Information request, he was stonewalled by both the government and the BBC. The UK government has spent $33,000 in legal fees to cover up what was discussed at the seminars and conferences and to cover up who the attendees were. In addition, Lord Hall of Birkenhead, BBC Director General, in an effort to play down the government's use of the BBC as a propaganda outlet, has made statements that directly contradict the BBC's previous descriptions. In the BBC's words, it was a high-level seminar with some of the best scientific experts on climate change. But Birkenhead says the guests were not climate change experts. He also says they were not advising the BBC on what their approach to climate change should be or how it should cover climate change. But the BBC says the seminar was held in order to provide attendees with an understanding of the existing state of knowledge on the issue of climate change, to identify where the main areas of debate lie, to provoke the imagination of the media, to deal with the scope of the issue, and to consider the role of the BBC in the public debate. What emerges in this fight for information is a story of direct, explicit control of the media to push a false narrative that was unraveling by the mid-2000s. At about the same time the government was advising the BBC on how it could help spread alarm over carbon dioxide, people were filing FOIA requests from East Anglia University's Climate Research Unit. After 4 years of stonewalling, the government said that the data and the communications had been lost. They no longer existed. But someone on the inside who knew the government and the Climate Research Unit were lying leaked the information on a Russian server. Those 1,000 emails, known as ClimateGate, showed that not only were some honest scientists concerned that the models were wrong, but that other scientists were conspiring to hide the decline. When the lies about the data no longer existing and the conspiracy to manipulate the data were exposed, ClimateGate caused quite a stir initially in 2009. But the same people who had attended the government conference on how to report climate issues were the same ones who, quote, debunked the ClimateGate emails, saying, "Move along, there's nothing to see here." An American, Michael Mann, originator of the hockey stick metaphor that Al Gore made famous, was involved in about 15% of the ClimateGate emails. Efforts in the U.S. to get access to the emails written by Mann on University of Virginia computers with grants funded by taxpayers and used to create public policy met with the same kind of stonewalling and lies that had been seen in the UK, that the documents had been destroyed when in fact they had not. What were they afraid of? Well, their efforts to hide the decline in global temperatures are now open for everyone to see, as are their dire predictions about the imminent disappearance of polar ice caps. There is a 17-year trend of global cooling in spite of record increases of carbon dioxide, what they call carbon. Both Al Gore and NASA scientists predicted that the polar ice caps would be gone by 2013. Yet, when UK climate scientists, accompanied by a BBC reporter, thought they could bolster their failing narrative by measuring ice in the Antarctic in the summer, they and their rescuers were trapped by record ice. The Gilligan's Iceland fiasco was spun as a weather aberration rather than a climate trend that matched 17 years of declining temperatures. The BBC dutifully reported that the Antarctic ice was only 1% above normal, when in fact it was at record levels, 15% above normal, and the UN organization pushing global warming as a crisis can't explain it. The government is deliberately trying to push society into a fantasy crisis so that they can justify a global tax regime, create a scarcity of energy, and gain global control of energy use. And they will conspire, blatantly lie, and cover up real data in order to forward that agenda.